Alright, I just saw The Lost City of Z, and I'm bouncing back and forth between a B plus and an A minus, which roughly equates to like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 on a numerical score. Um, I went to see this movie solely on the recommendation from Brad Jones and Dave, whoever from Stone Gremlin Productions, because I like watching their midnight screenings, and I didn't know this movie existed until I saw their midnight screenings episode. And when they reviewed it, they said, Brad said this was one of the top 100 best movies he had ever seen in his life. And Dave said this was the best movie he had seen in theaters in the last 5 or 10 years. Those, as you could imagine, those gave me some pretty lofty expectations, but I went in with an open mind and just went to see the film for what it was. And I mean, it's really good. Is it a masterpiece? No. This I wouldn't say this is one of the top 100 best movies I've ever seen in my life, nor is it the best movie to come out in theaters in the last 5 or 10 years. Um, just real quick, the universe the film creates, it is immersive, and it's easy to lose yourself in the story. Um, it's based on a true story, and you can look up all the details about this dude's expeditions and journeys and stuff, like online or in the book that the movie is based on. Um, the acting is good, it's nothing spectacular, but it's that all the actors get the job done. The best scenes acting wise in the movie are the scenes where um, Fawcett, yeah, that's the dude's name, Fawcett, is at home and he's like discussing his expeditions with his family and like how they don't want him to go because he's away for several years at a time and it's very taxing just mentally and psychologically on them. And the movie has some pretty progressive themes, or at least progressive viewpoints on racial equality and suffrage, women's suffrage, which for the time the movie's set, 1905 to 1925, would be appropriate. But other than that, my biggest complaint with this movie would probably be that just it just felt really dry, and it didn't feel like a lot of the scenes didn't feel like they had as much emotional weight to them as they could have had. The best scenes in the movie for me are the ones where they're in the Amazon, venturing into the unknown, because the score in those scenes really helps a lot too. The score, particularly the tracks used in those scenes, is fantastic. I have no complaints about the soundtrack. Um, what I thought this movie was going to be was kind of different from how it is, because the movie, like, it starts off in England, then it shows his first expedition, then he goes back to England, then he does a second expedition, then he goes back to England, then he does a third expedition, and I thought it would be more like, kind of like your more traditional, like, adventure type movie where they stay in the uncharted territory for a majority of the running time. Like, this movie reminded me of many things, largely because it's kind of shot to look like an old, new Hollywood era movie from the 1970s. And you can tell from the cinematography, they have those, like, slow zooms into just, like, random objects at certain points. Like, that cinematic technique is really reminiscent of that era of Hollywood. But something this movie kind of reminded me of, and in short, yeah, I would recommend this movie if it seems like your cup of tea. It's definitely the most unique movie that's out in theaters right now. Um, but I don't know, for me it seemed to lack a bit of substance. It was just sort of this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and I didn't find myself caring about many of the characters besides Fawcett's family. But other than that, like Robert Pattinson's character, like he has almost nothing to do in the movie, even though he has a good amount of screen time. I guess he's just there because in real life there was a guy who accompanied Fawcett all the time. I don't know. But one movie this movie kind of reminded me of in certain respects, especially the scenes in the Amazon, and I'm gonna just basically give you a random recommendation for a movie that isn't The Lost City of Z, would be Takashi Miike's The Bird People in China. It's the least Miike-like of any of Takashi Miike's movies. Um, it's a slow burn, but believe me, it's worth it. This movie is so beautiful. It has a great cast of characters. I don't believe there's an HD version of this movie available. Like, there's no Blu-ray release. The only way you can get it on home media is the DVD. And the DVD is hard to find unless you order it on eBay or something, which is what I did. But seriously, guys, this movie is fantastic. It's so beautiful. I don't even fully 100% comprehend what it means thematically. I have like an idea of it, but even still, without that complete grasp of it, like the ending of this movie nearly brought me to tears. Like, just something about it, without spoiling anything, just really struck a chord with me. And like, this movie is seriously, like, I dare say there's almost something magical about this movie. And if you haven't seen it and you don't like foreign films because you don't like reading subtitles, you're seriously missing out. And just so you don't get confused, it's a Japanese movie made by a Japanese director, but it's set in China, and the languages they speak in the movie vary from Japanese to Chinese to English to a few other things as well. But still, the Lost City of Z, though, there were some magical moments in it that I really loved, but everything else in the movie just felt a little hollow to me. Like, and like the World War One sequence, that probably could have been heavily cut down or even entirely edited out. But that's just my opinion. And if you are a big fan, again, of that 70s style, new Hollywood style type of adventure epic, you'll definitely at least appreciate this movie. But I don't know, for me, it just didn't quite do it. It might sound like I'm being a little like lukewarm about it, but I don't know. That it's probably just because I'm focusing too much on the negative aspects of it, because the good stuff in this movie is really good, and there's some genuinely fantastic sequences and elements to it. Um, but I think they could have done more with it. They could have made the characters a little more fleshed out. At least some of the characters could have been more fleshed out, and just a little more immersive as well. Um, but yeah, basically, like, watch the trailer, look up some spoiler-free reviews, and if it sounds like your cup of tea, you'll know whether or not you're gonna like it. Probably, most likely.